and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guests, and the host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Vox Populi with yours truly, Barrington Skippy Thomas. Welcome. I feel it in a poem. I'm in a poem mood tonight. I'm in a poetic mood tonight. So I remember many years ago in a Sunday school, the Lambo Church of God Sunday school, I were required to perform a poem to welcome those who attended upon the event, to cheer us on as Sunday school students. And so I was asked to say in the welcome poem, "Welcome, welcome one and all to this lovely great church hall. We wish you have a merry stay," and something about Christmas Day. And that's the most I remember. But I'm in a poem mood tonight, and you'll understand why I say that as we proceed. So welcome, welcome one and all. That's as much as my poem for that will go. But good evening and welcome to another edition of Vox Populi with yours truly, Barrington Skippy Thomas. Broadcasting, of course, from my quiet and humble kennel where I reside here in the island of Trinidad, but still to defend the issues of and the people of the island of Tobago. Because Tobago is where I'm from. Tobago is where I was born. My neighbor string was buried there. And don't matter where I go, don't matter where I roam, Tobago will always be my home. So let me say a very good evening to, I don't normally do this and I don't want to make a habit of it. Just like, I don't want to be accused of selecting persons to say hello to and all of that, but I want to say, I just think it's prudent, and it dawned upon me that I'll say hello to those who are on air at this moment. So good evening to Benton Williams, Rona Price, Yolanda Cordner, Marilyn Spencer Jofield, and Althea Wallace. Good evening, good evening. Good evening to one and all, and good evening to the 122 of you that are on 26 at this time, 29, no, that's it. Because if I keep doing this, if I keep doing this, I kind of won't stop. So good evening to all of you at this time, the 130 of you that are online at the moment. Good evening, and welcome, 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 warm welcomes, welcome to you. Now, my friends, it was my initial intention to discuss a number of issues. I wanted, of course, to discuss with you why Obika, who pretended to be the strongest and most loyal African soldier in the UNC, Obika started competing with me and all to represent our party's interests on the island of Tobago, because he taught at Elizabeth's College. And he thought that that was sufficient to qualify him to be the black African Tobagonian in the party. But alas, for 30 pieces of silver and a pound of disgrace, Obika fled with maximum betrayal to the PNM. And I wanted to discuss Obika tonight. But I decided that the reason why we did not have the show last week is simply because I was very unwell. And so I was like really sick last week. I'm sure you know that I'm struggling with a medical condition. So I was very unwell, and I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the strength, and I didn't have the physical wherewithal to do the show. And I have decided to take a rest. And in taking that rest, I had to consider if what I'm doing every Wednesday night a tremendous sacrifice to me, and I'm certain maximum benefit to others, if it was worth it. And I took the night off because I was one unwell, but I also wanted to internalize if this sacrifice I am making, if it is worth it. And then I have decided I will not, let me repeat, I have decided I will not abdicate the throne of my responsibility to you, the people of Tobago. I will not abdicate the responsibility of that throne. And so I've decided, sick or no sick, depressed or no depression, I will do what I have to do for the people of Tobago, and I will do it until I can do it no more. So I wanted to discuss Obika tonight, but I said to myself, discussing Obika is not worth it, because, hey, how you doing, cuz? Let me say a very good night to my darling cousin Nancy Thomas. So I said, sick or no sick, weak or no weak, frail or no frail, depressed or no depressed, I will not discuss Obika, because it is clear from my medical ailment that time is short. And I just want to say to you, I may not have long to be with you, because I am sick with my heart. I may not have long to be with you. But while I'm here, I will do what I can do for the people of Tobago, and I will do it until I can do it no more. And the only time I will cease doing it is when my roll is called up yonder. And so I decided, notwithstanding what I told you about Obika, I decided I don't want to waste my limited time on earth speaking about Obika. Then, of course, I wanted to discuss with you a press conference by Messrs. Hines and Amory Brown, Dr. Brown. And how, of course, in that press conference, they lash out, they levitate, they oscillate, they gyrated upon Gary Griffith. And the issues they raised concerning one Gary Griffith became troubling to me. Now, I am a professional at what I do. My experience with Dr. Amory Brown, when I was executive director of the Ministry of the People of Social Development, and for those who don't know what that position means, the food card director, the social welfare director, the PSDP, yeah, public service development something director. There was something like 18 divisions and 7,000 employees reported to me. I did that in this country. But my focus at all material times while doing that have always been on the downtrodden, the mendicant, the suffering, and the oppressed. I was not in the Ministry of Trade, so I don't give one hoot about the manufacturers. They means nothing to me. I was not in the Ministry of Works, so at no time contractors impressed me. I was happy that I was in the Ministry of the People, because serving the people is what I wanted to do, and Almighty God had blessed me to do it. And every tragic experience I had in life, when I sat there as executive director, responsible for creating policies and so in that ministry. It was the combination of those tragic circumstances I've had in my own life that have caused me to roll out all the policies that I've rolled out. One of those policies I'm extremely proud about was that of the food card. I've taken the position that when people, citizens, persons, come to our offices in whatever location they are throughout Trinidad and Tobago, it is not for us to red tape them and harass them with bureaucracy at the first instance. They say they're hungry, they want some food. Without judgment and without bureaucracy and red tape, we must give food to them. We must just give them a food card. And that food card was known as a temporary food card. And after that temporary food card that can satisfy them for a month, the technocrats, the officers of the ministry, they will then have the duty to assess and investigate and determine if this applicant is worthy of a permanent card. If the application was not concluded in a month, we must give them another temporary food card. But in other words, we must keep giving them this temporary food card until we have made a determination on whether or not they are qualified for a permanent one or not. But in other words, I was not prepared to delay hunger. And so I said I would talk about Fitzgerald Hines and Dr. Brown, and how, of course, they unleashed this rabid attack on Gary Griffith. But I raised that, I said what I just said to you because it was in my role as executive director of the Ministry of People. I had reasons on a Sunday morning to report to a very tragic flooding incident in Diego Martin, where 3 persons have lost their lives among the hundreds of devastation and so. And when I arrived, the Defense Force and so were there, and other local government agencies, and of course I took command of the situation. They reported well to me. I understood what was taking place, and so it was about decision. But remember, I would have been then the most senior technocrat. But up came Dr. Amory Brown, and he was the only politician properly seated in the parliament, and it was his constituency, and so it wasn't UNC MP or PNM MP for me. It was the MP for the area, and I worked well with him on that Sunday. I must admit, in essence, that there were occasions I took instructions from him. I mean, well, some suggestion I consider instruction, but ultimately it was my call. But I bent backwards to facilitate him because he was the member of parliament for the district where the tragedy occurred. And that I'm making a point is to demonstrate the magnanimity that I'm known for, and the magnanimity that I've credited myself for, and the magnanimity that I will always engage. And so my friends, I had to now come tonight after listening to that man that commanded my respect on that day, listening to some petty rab and some rabid comments and so they made about Gary Griffith, and some man was on a chair. And by the way, the man that was on this chair that died in some police station had 17, not 7, not 1/7 of an offense. He had 17 priors for raping, and you all would understand where I'm going with this as the show progresses, for raping, slaughtering, kidnapping, and brutalizing little girls. He died on a chair, and he died when he committed his 18th offense with one, what's the little girl from in Arima, there's something Barrett. Andrea Barrett, right? So they catch him. There was some incident at the police station, he died. Well, Hines came out and he brought Amory Brown with him to be his dashboard puppy and cheering squad. Right? His dashboard puppy and cheering squad to defend a man that raped and killed 18 little girls in this country. No concern for the victims, but a lot of concern for this perpetrator of 18 heinous serial sexual crimes in this country. But that is okay if Hines and Brown think that to represent the PNM and the nastiness it stands for is to defend such a person, then that is okay. That is up to them. God will judge them and the people of this country will judge them. And sometime coming up, I want to tell you all something about the URP and its leadership. Because I led that organization too. Well, there was a program manager, but it was in our ministry and I had oversight over it. And I know the shape, the glorious shape into which I have cultured it. But I want to tell you now, of course, under this new leadership and so, the structure and so, the URP is now a place for generating funds for gangs and crime and sex for jobs, and the URP is now a place for human trafficking and Venezuelan and Colombian prostitution, and drugs are being hidden in the offices. But that is a separate show, right? That is a separate show, and I'll tell you all about that because I can prove it, right? I can prove it. So I was asking myself, why would Dr. Brown belittle himself to defend serial rapists? Now I understand Fitzgerald Hines against Gary Griffith. You know, since Gary Griffith was commissioner, they never seem to have had a good relationship. But so I understand the politics between Hines and Griffith. It's par for the course. Again, I'm a very fair person. It's par for the course. And so I'm not prepared to comment too much on that. But I was very unpleasantly surprised to see Amory Brown joining it. And what Dr. Brown joined it with, it was to say that the United States government is upset and are prepared to withhold funding to support national security, infrastructure, machinery, and rollout because of that incident. And that is when I realized that Dr. Brown was not speaking to me or the other clinical thinkers or the academics or the intellectuals in this country. I realized then that Dr. Brown was talking to the ignoramuses like Indar Sam and Leroy George and others. Because after hearing our Minister of Foreign Affairs saying that the United States took a position on a country to withhold funding and so, based on an incident. After hearing him, I said to myself, well, Lordy, Miss Claudie, your cat make pups. Because I want to tell you, my friends, that the United States is not in the behavior or the habit, or any developed country, or any country for that matter, of making state-to-state policy arrangement and decision based on incidents. The United States will make a decision based on the government's policy, right? Government's policy, and not an isolated incident. Because the United States of America would assume, incorrectly I imagine, but they would always assume, as it is the tradition, the practice, and the regulated position in how you treat with state-to-state arrangements and relations called, we call it diplomacy. It's treated where isolated incident would not trigger an intervention from the US State Department. Right? What will trigger a response from the US State Department is a government policy. And we must not forget, now or never, that it was the Prime Minister Rowley who said, in support of Gary Griffith, you all remember Gary Griffith's one shot, one kill? Rowley supported that position. Remember, a woman went in some PNM. Now, this man is a very complicated man, this Keith Rowley man. There are times you're not sure what he would say next, so you want to turn off your TV in the event your children are listening and so. But there's a next time they put powder on his face and so powder, and they put a scarf around his neck, and he laps his foot, and then they call him Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, and he speaks calm. He's up to something. That is not his behavior. He can't do that for long. He's up to something. But as we watch him to determine what he's up to, because that is not his behavior. That is not his real behavior. That is a feigned composure and a feigned behavior. But as we watch him, we would remember he departed from this new posture they're trying to portray him into when he told the woman that made the complaint. Well, if you don't want your friend and them to get killed by the police, keep them home, because the police will kill people. And he went on in, I'm paraphrasing, but he went on in a way as if to suggest that he supports the one shot, one kill position. And then he made the other statement at another time when he said he was threatening citizens. They may be criminals, but we have something in this country called a constitution that recognizes those same criminals to be citizens. And he threatened citizens by saying to them, the police have more guns than you. So it is as a result of government policy, a foreign power will intervene and threaten withdrawing financial aid and so. It is not as a result of incidents. And so I wanted to deal with that tonight, Hines and Dr. Brown. But I've decided that I don't have very long to live again with my medical condition, so I would waste no time on Hines and Brown. Then, of course, I wanted to discuss Leroy George, who doesn't have a posy to piss in or a window to throw it through, but is all over Tobago slandering me, defaming me, and how, of course, I wanted to sue him. But then suing Leroy George would be viewed as advantage. And I've just decided Leroy George is not worth my time, because then again, I am sick with my heart, and I may not have long to be with you again. So I don't want to waste my time discussing a non-entity like Leroy George. And then, of course, I wanted to discuss Farley Augustine Charles and their agenda for putting up nasty comments, liard comments. Yeah, I'm not in Parliament. And whether liard is a word or is not good grammar, I had mere business with that. I am the descendants of a slave. I don't have to talk English good. I don't have to use English good. I'm the descendant of a slave. And I tell myself, I will waste absolutely no time on this liard, bogus page called Farley Augustine Chavez, Farley Augustine Charles. I'll waste no time on it. And then after realizing I want to waste no time on them, all of them, Obika, Hines and Brown, Dennis and the pitch pine thing that I wasting no time on Dennis and this pitch pine bacchanal in Boko. No time, I'm wasting no time on Leroy George. I'm wasting no time on this fake page person, man, woman, child, whoever it is. Man, woman, child, goat, sheep, dog, cat, whoever Father Augustine Charles is. I'm wasting no time on them. And while I've decided to waste no time on them, all of them, Obika, Hines, Brown, Dennis, Leroy George, and Father Augustine Charles, they reminded me of a poem. And I'll tell you this poem. I'll tell you about this poem and then we move on with this show. They remind me of a poem. When I watch all their chicanery, when I watch all their malefides and malipraxies, I could only summarize all of them together. Obika, Hines, Dr. Brown, Ansel Dennis, Leroy George, Farley Augustine. I could only summarize them one way. They remind me of a poem. You all know that poem? Well, here was the poem they remind me of. You all want to hear the poem? They remind me of a poem. And the poem is, there was a crooked man who walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. He saw a crooked mouse. He saw a crooked cat that caught a crooked mouse. And they all lived together in their little crooked house. That is what they are, right? That is what they are. So I will be wasting no time on those people. None whatsoever. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is a picture with a picture. And I want to discuss that picture a bit. A picture with Farley Augustine Chavez, the Chief Secretary, purporting to have, yes, purporting to have a gun on his person and so. I want to discuss that. I want to discuss something that is troubling me a bit, and that is the scandalizing of the judiciary. I want to discuss that. And then I also want to discuss the whole issue of this new pursuit by the government on constitutional reform. But before we go into topic number one, and I'll discuss them in the orders outlined. Before we go into topic number one, it's not a break of sort. I want to play a very quick song for you. And so we get this song. I'll get a chance. I really need to go and get some water, and then we'll return.
Sparrow, you should use the gun. You could have fight him man to man and done.
Guys.
Why you use the gun? You could have fight him man to man and done. You was in love with the man wife, and so the man pull out a knife. If he had done the same to you, it's the same blasted thing you would have do. Attention, listen everyone. Shooting like Bill Buckaroo in the tongue. The son of a cat and nose Grenadian. Sparrow, you should use your head. The mister could have fallen on that provocation. It's not very nice, but I maintain you should have think twice. Suppose the shot went through his heart, it would have been murder from the start. Luck be Tobia, that's what they say. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive today. Attention, listen everyone. Shooting like a madman all over town. The son of a cat and nose Grenadian. be ashamed. From now on, do not call my name. Our friendship has finally ended. Criminal, don't call me no friend. No wonder every calypso. You make me a blasted pappy show. Your aim was to shoot the popular, and your only arrival, you murderer. Attention, listen everyone. King gunslingers into the town, and he's shooting like a madman all over town. They surround him with big stick and stone. 20 men to him alone, defenseless. When he tried to run, they surround him. He pull out the gun. He never meant to do no harm, not even shoot him in his arm. He tried to scare them with a gun. It's the same thing any man would have done. Attention, listen everyone. Shooting like Bill Buckaroo in the town. Put him in the hands of immigration.
Yes. Yes, so now that song was sung by Lord, by Lord Melody, and it's titled Cowboy Sparrow. Lord Melody sang it and it's titled Cowboy Sparrow. Now what that song was about, you'll understand why I play this song now that I'm going to speak to you, right? What that song was about is that Sparrow received a charge. Sparrow received a charge for possession of a unlawful firearm. At that time, being in possession of an unlawful firearm was not as serious as now. It was just the mischief in the law at the time for that. It's just that you didn't have the license for it. So you didn't have a driver's permit. You didn't have the license for your you didn't have a license for your bicycle. You know, so it was just not having the license. You know, with all these gun crimes and so now, it's more serious, it's more dreaded and all that sort of thing. Right? So that is one. I just want to tell you that. But Melody sang it. And after Melody sang it, because he and Sparrow were warring each other, not only through Calypso and so. You know, like you see, as it was in the beginning, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. You realize now, all these young fellas, we chastise now for their bitterness and acrimony and so with this Trinidad music and so. That existed in the earlys with Calypso. It existed in the beginning with Calypso. So Sparrow got this gun charge. It was a 22 split cracker, a revolver. Melody sang, da 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 da. Sparrow have a gun. Now everybody in Trinidad and Tobago dance and chip to that song. Steel Band would have played it at the time, but people were singing along and singing the words. They dance and chip to that song in Juve. They dance and chip to that song Monday Night Mass. They dance and chip to that song Carnival Tuesday. The song One Road March. The jury had to come from Trinidad and Tobago to determine Sparrow's guilt or innocence. Now, what you think, what decision you think the jury arrived at? After dancing that song whole carnival and had to go in court in July to decide if Sparrow innocent or guilty. Well, Sparrow was found guilty. So the song was calculated to mobilize. This right? The song was calculated to mobilize the citizenry against Sparrow, and from the citizenry would come the jury pool, And it, of course, it was calculated to arrive at a guilty verdict, and thus ended the story. Sparrow was found guilty, and he had to pay $2 or serve 3 months in prison. Right? I have seen a photograph of someone resembling or purports to be the chief secretary, and I really don't have the time for the machination and the games. Put up the photograph, folks, and producer, and I want the viewers to see the photograph, and after the photograph is shown, or perhaps while it's being shown, if me and the photograph on air at the same time, and I verily believe we are, I will discuss it. So I want to say some things about this photograph, and that what seemed to resemble a pistol. I want to say something about the photograph that seemed to resemble the chief secretary. And then I want to say something further about the pistol, about the black item that seemed to resemble a pistol. 1, the photograph seemed to resemble the chief secretary. 2, the black item seemed to resemble a firearm. Right? Those are my 2 things. I cannot confirm neither can I deny that this person is the chief secretary or not. No, I'm not playing games. If I believe it was, I'll be the first to say it was. I cannot do like the rest of you and say, yes, that is the chief secretary. I just can't do it. Because there is something known as the Turnbull rule. And that is a case, that is a 1938 case, Turnbull and the King of England. And it is that precedent and authority that have settled what is known in the common law today. And I need not remind you that we are in a common law jurisdiction. And Turnbull have set the guideline, the precedent through its authority for identification. So I cannot sound like Leroy George, having spent years in law school and properly qualified upon matters of the law. So I am prepared to say I cannot confirm, neither can I deny that this person is the chief secretary. I cannot confirm, neither can I deny that this black item protruding in the back in the photograph there, I cannot confirm nor deny that it is indeed a pistol. I am prepared, however, to enter the realm of speculation. So I am prepared to say, assuming but not admitting that this is the chief secretary and that is a pistol, then several issues arise. 1, remember we are still in this speculative stage. 1 is, I am of the view that the chief, and you ought to be of the view also, that the chief secretary is one of the persons so qualified to be, I don't want to use the word gifted, but so qualified to be, let me put it this way, so qualified to have a firearm user's license application expedited and in his or her, whoever is chief secretary, favor. I want to say that. So I'm assuming that this is the chief secretary. I am assuming that this is a pistol. And I'm assuming, and I'll get to that, I'm getting to that. I'm assuming that that is what I'm doing, only assuming that this is a pistol, this is the chief secretary. I want to ask the question, what law have been broken? We're hearing crickets now. Please quiet. I'm hearing crickets now. What law have been broken? So if you have a firearm and that firearm becomes visible in the public domain, then the only mischief the law seeks to cure is that a common assault did not occur. What then is a common assault? The common assault is concerned strictly with no more or no less that you drew the firearm, right? You drew the fire. Exposure is not an offense. You drew the firearm. You pointed it at someone, and that person apprehended immediate fear that their life were in danger. And if that did not occur, then no offense took place. So, with all the assumptions we have made, I could tell you no offense was committed. What then is the issue there? The issue there then would be somebody, so I'm assuming nothing else now, so I'm only going to describe this photograph as somebody had on a jersey, sat on a wall, and the jersey is ride, let us call it the jersey ride, and as a result of the jersey riding, a weapon was exposed. Assuming this is not an AI configuration. You see, because why I keep saying assuming, this is on the what else called the man? Why I'm keep saying assuming, this is on the Farley Augustine Charles page. Remember that page is known for layered makeup configurations. We exposed them last week before. They were exposed on another matter before, and they will be exposed again in the future. So because it came from there, we cannot and we must not rely on them. So I done with the assumption. I just describing this person to be this person. So assuming this person has a firearm, but they have a FUL and so, then no offense were committed. And clearly what took place there, when you look at it, is that the person jersey ride up and then the weapon was exposed. So this is really a matter of apparel. Now, I'm saying this reluctantly, very reluctantly. I just wear sexy medium. Everybody asks me, what is your size? I tell them, my size is sexy medium. But I have a belly now. I have no idea where it came from. I have a belly now, and I have no idea where it came from. Like none. Just so I wake up and get a belly. But normally, my attire is sexy medium. But just so I wake up and I get a big belly. Just so I wake up and get a big belly. Right? I'm saying this reluctantly, that I have a weapon. I'm saying this very reluctantly. I have a weapon. And when I put on my sexy medium, sexy medium is what I does wear. And this belly is stopping me from wearing it. So they have to find a way to make that sexy medium fit over the belly. But I'm not wearing no, yeah, so I sexy medium. That is why I does wear sexy medium. Yeah, short me. Up here is bicep then. Well, whatever I name, You know, time I send pictures to girls and I just send it up here and show me thing, but I can't let that camera go down my belly at all. You have a problem there. So the point I'm making is that so there are times, sometimes you're out. But when you leave home and you secure your weapon and so on you, based on the apparel you're wearing, so this is general advice I'm giving, based on the apparel you're wearing, you're secure because you pull it down. And don't let me fool myself. How much of us have left home and the same clothes, the same t-shirt, the same shirt that fit you so snug and neat, by the time you meet out and you drink 2 water, 2 apple juice, or you eat 2 doubles, start to ride up on you. Well, in my case, in the belly does push it up, but but those are some real issues, right? Those are some very real issues. The point I'm making is that looking at that, I can see no criminal intention from that photograph. I can see no malicious behavior from that photograph. I can see no willfully unlawful conduct from that photograph, except that that person had on an apparel, and from sitting on a wall, could you put it up, guys, for me, please? I want to aptly describe it so I could move on to the next subject matter. Thank you. And so from sitting from a wall, the jersey, or the jersey long sleeve, by whatever alias, top, the jersey, the shirt, t-shirt, whatever alias, the hoodie, whatever alias we want to describe it as, it ride. And as a result of that, the weapon were exposed. If this photograph is to be believed. But you know, seeing this is not troubling because every firearm holder in this country, and there were many times other firearm holders used to tell me, no, you have to buy a shirt, you have to start buying your t-shirts or your shirts now a size larger than you normally wear. And of course, when you look at this photograph, you will understand why. Good? I just think I wanted to say that. And so if you have a weapon, and those involved in having weapons would understand exactly what went on there. But I assure you, if this photograph is to be believed, there is no criminal offense, criminal intent, nothing there. But I'll tell you what we have there. When you look at this photograph carefully, no, I am not assuming it's anybody anymore. I know what it was purported to portray. I know who it was purported to portray. I am saying that I cannot deny nor confirm that. So I just saying we only call it now this photograph. When you look at this photograph, anybody who has a firearm would understand what took place there. There are no crime, there are no wrongdoing there. There is no recklessness there. Because if you look clearly behind there, you will realize that no threat is being posed to anybody. Look at the people in the... Keep it up there for me a bit, guys. I want to dwell on this a bit. Look at the photograph of the people there. They seem so unbothered. In fact, the person in this purported photograph, if it's to be believed, looking in the direction with everybody else here. So no threat is being posed to nobody there. But I want to tell you, having seen the photograph, what I want to tell you what my thoughts are about it. So it have nothing named no willful exposure of a weapon and all those things. Those are guys, seeing some stripe. Tell me. All right. Those charges are the fictions. All those charges, willful exposure. I heard some people saying recklessness and listen. Those charges are the figment of the imagination of persons who think that they know who this person is in this photograph, and they just dislike the person. Those are not charges known to the law. They are not charges known to the law. But I'll tell you what I think about this photograph. I'll tell you, actually did a chancellor, actually did I realize that is the best option because I not stop wearing my sexy medium. I'll tell you what I think took place there. Now, any decent person, I want you to underscore that word, any decent person, any decent citizen any decent Tobagonian would have just simply said, hey, if we believe who it is, would I say, Chief, fix your jersey. Or hey, or mature minds would have known enough to just look at the person and just, do this, do a sign that, top down. And that person, whoever that person is, would have known what they had to do. Any decent person, any decent citizen, any decent Tobagonian would have done that. If that person is the person who they suggest it may be, then if you didn't want to tell the person, you could have shown the sign to the person's security detail and indicate to them, fix the jersey, fix the jersey. That's all. A decent person would have done that. But you know why that photograph is up? Because the person who took that photograph and published that photograph is not a decent citizen. That person is not a decent human being. That person is not a decent Tobagonian. The person who took that photograph and published that photograph is a nasty, stinking, dirty PNM. I'm drinking water now. Because nothing can be gained by doing that. No laws broken, nobody threatened, no incident occurring, nothing happening. Give me one reason why you think it was important to take that photograph and publish it. So, but you know what that photograph reminds me of? The person who took that photograph, they have the mind of people who will rape their daughters. And I'm sorry for saying it as blunt and as raw as that, but whoever took that photograph and published that photograph, they have the mind and the aptitude to rape their daughter or their son. And I'll tell you why. I have a little goddaughter, Adina, Anthony's daughter. And when she's up here by me, and since she's a baby, when we getting old, we still believe we have to lift them up and throw them in the air. I'm not going to lift she up now. When I'm going to lift she up now, she just tell me, she just say, Godfather, I am 9, you have to stop lifting me up and throwing me in the air. You can't catch me anymore, suppose I fall. And then it made some sense. I say, see you before you fall down. But since she was an infant, from the time you hold her, the first thing she'll do when you rest her down, right? The first thing she'll do, but I'm going to expose the person who first put it up. So the first thing she'll do when you hold her, is that she'll address her dress or shimmies, whatever babies does wear, she address it. So she pull it down. So, I'm not sure if you know children like that. So you lift her up, and then the first thing she do is tie the back of her attire. That's what decent people do. And decent people respect that. But the person who think it's okay to take out this photograph and publish it, that person will see a little child skirt up. A little girl child skirt up and take pictures of that child underwear. And sadly to say, publish it or cherish it for a purpose best known to them. The person who published this, not only have a warped mind, not only have a filthy mind, they have a guttural mind with the worst of intentions. That is what I want to say about this photograph. That is what this photograph suggests to me. That is what this photograph suggests to me. Right? That is what this photograph suggests to me. The person who published this, I want to repeat it, the person who published this, the person who published this, the person who published this, the person who published this is filthy in their mind, and if they have the mentality to publish this, take a picture of this and publish this. And I want to tell you something. I told you I was going to show you all who publish it. I'm not going to do it again. Right? I'm not going to do it again. Particularly since I'm convinced now in my mind that person is nasty. Well, I think I've proven my point that that person is nothing but a nasty, stinking, dirty PNM. Yes, because they might be very well clean, contrite PNM. But this one is a nasty, stinking, dirty one. No, don't. I'll explain to you after why not. Right? I'll explain to you why not. Why I don't want to put it up. But I want to say the person who published that person have the temperament to see a little child dress or skirt up and take out pictures of their underwear and publish it as well, or to keep it for some psychotic reason. Because it is that kind of guttural mind will do something like that. So that is my position on that photograph. I want to add, the person who published that went to bishops too. And do you like bishops people? Or you want to create this bishopian utopia to run the island? Well, it's a bishop's person that do a bishop's person that. And the person who did that also have a weapon. So there must be a kind of ethical code where all you could say is, hey, fix your jersey. And I say no more about that at this time. If you bother me and push me. But I have said some things about the person, and on that basis I don't want to publish the person now. Because then it mean that if I go and publish the person now, it mean that it's I who went up in whim and not the person down and tell them sue me. So I'll not be going up to whim to tell nobody in whim to sue me. And who missed that, I'll not be repeating that. Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. I'll not be repeating that. I have directed my comments to nobody. Right. Secondly, there's this issue of, I have to finish up just now, so you'll forgive me for just taking 5 more minutes of your time, and I think. But secondly, I have a date, with my big belly, because, and they say, go about your belly, and I said, no, I study no belly, no man. You have to have belly to live in this country, Don't study my belly at all. But I have a date, and I'm going on that date tonight. But I want to say that there is the issue of constitutional reform in the air. The government have put it out, and I think it's very important for the citizenry of this country, including the people of Tobago. I think it's very important to the people of Tobago. I'm disappointed though. And again, this is not an attack. I don't know why when I talk, everybody thinks it's an attack. When I talk is not an attack. It's just that I don't have enough time in my life now to play games. It's not an attack. The Constitution and the reform thereof ought to be an important exercise to every citizen in any and every nation. You don't have to like the government. I don't like them. But I'm a citizen here. Well, for now. And constitutional reform is important to me as it is important to you. Because the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago is our supreme law. Now what that means, unlike the United Kingdom, where the sovereign is supreme, albeit ceremonial, the sovereign, because their constitution recognizes the sovereign to be supreme. In the United Kingdom, the constitution is not codified, so you can't find all in one document as you would find it in ours or the Americans or the French. Have you ever thought, and this is something I've always concerned me, that car manuals and bicycle manuals are thicker than our constitution? Have you ever found or did think about it or thought or discovered or discuss it that a bicycle manual or a motor car manual is thicker than our constitution? But our constitution is our sovereign law. That is our supreme law. The United Kingdom, the sovereign is supreme. Their constitution is not codified. So, I mean, some of the sources of their constitution, if I could remember from memory, and oh my God, this is about 9 years ago in first year. So the sources of the constitution will be Convention, the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Human Rights Act. I know there's one more, I just can't remember it now, but there's one more. I know there was 5. So it's the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Human Rights Act. Yeah, Magna Carta, Bill of Rights, Human Rights Act. I call Bill of Rights Magna Carta, Bill of Rights, Human Rights Act, the Convention. Yeah, so those are sources of constitutional law. Ours is codified. And the issue is, are we satisfied that in 2024, are we satisfied that our constitution is adequately modern to satisfy our needs? I raise those issues because I think our constitutional reform is an important matter. Right? It is the supreme law, and in most instances, shield or sword for every citizen. Shield and or sword for every citizen. Those who died yesterday, those who are living today, and for those who will be born tomorrow. The Constitution is our shield and our sword. And I take note that there are much activities about it around the place. But I take note that there is none in Tobago. I take note that the THA, in this era of autonomy, have not taken the initiative to call people to Fairfield Complex, Rocks, St. Grey Complex, Bacolet Stadium, to engage the island's thought on the constitutional reform issue, and what Tobago would like to see that it could have some guarantee about in the constitution. And it would seem to me the constitutional provision of the THA is very, very much annexed to the whole issue of autonomy. I've not seen that. The THA is not singular in this. I've not seen the TPP doing it as a political party. I've not seen the PNM doing it as a political party. I'm not seeing the PDP doing it as a political party. I'm not seeing... There's this group. I think Leroy George is in that group too. And every time they want to make some mischief or they didn't get a contract or two or something what they want from the government, I think they name CivNet or Civil Society or something. So they put out this polls on they put out this poll on the stature and view how people view the THA and this exactly do it. I've not seen them mobilizing anything of the constitutional reform. I've not seen the chamber, the Tobago Business Chamber. I've not seen them mobilizing their members to produce a document on constitutional reform. I've seen nothing about it in Tobago. And I just want to warn you all against that. That may not be a healthy approach. That may not be a healthy approach. But if you produce nothing, you ought to have not seen IDA. Now I'm saying I've seen nobody, the churches, nobody. I've seen nobody done anything about it. And I'm saying that if decisions are made on the reform of the Constitution and so, and it's not done in a way to advantage a Tobago's position, then my advice is that we may only have ourselves to blame, right? That is what I wanted to say about that. And then I also wanted to say something about a new development that is troubling me to no end. You know, speaking of constitution, there's a new development that is troubling me to no end whatsoever. And that situation is this. We have three arms of government. That is the Parliament, which make laws, the executive, which implement the laws, administrate over it and so, and the judiciary, which interpret the laws. Now, Parliament have made some laws, some were struck down by the court and so, for procedural posture and so. The executive have engaged in some conduct, and as a result of the conduct the executive have engaged in, citizens or visitors alike to our shores, but certainly within our territory, have approached the High Court of Judicature for remedy on a complaint and so. And I'm seeing now, in some instances, citizens, whether they be criminals or not, the law don't recognize them to be criminals. The law recognizes them to be citizens first because our Constitution willed it. Right? Our Constitution willed it. And so citizens approach the court. And very often they approach the court and for judicial reviews and constitutional motions and so on issues. And when the judges and judicial officers of the court, the judiciary, make their decisions, we have members of the government, the executive, chastising them. In the last instance, we had the Prime Minister saying to Justice, not to Justice C. Prasad, that quote, if I had to quote the Prime Minister, paraphrase, quote, it is only the government that will make policy, and no judge in this country will make policy for my government. And I don't know if the judge made policy. What the judge certainly did was to interpret the law and deliver a decision, and everybody know all decisions made by the court. Any A-level law student will tell you all decisions made by the court have two components, right? You have the ratio decidendi, and then you also have the obiter dictum. Ratio decidendi is the reason why the judge have arrived at the decision they arrived at. And the obiter dicta is what they say by the way. So while the ratio decidendi is binding, the obiter dicta is persuasive. And that have always been the position of the common law for centuries. And to hear Prime Minister, and you all remember recently, there's another one, I think in the Brent Thomas matter. No relation, by the way. But in the Brent Thomas matter, you had the Minister of National Security leading a scathing attack on the judiciary and the judges, saying things like they are friends with criminals, as if to say that is why the judge ruled the way he ruled, because, you know, when you start, and that is, and I'll tell you what my angst is. That level of criticism ought not to come from actors or office holders in the executive. Now you see, they may argue Ambad and the Attorney General. I think it's a 1975 matter. And in Ambad and the Attorney General, what Lord Hoffman said in effect in that judgment was, one of the judges, the law lord, said, quote, "Justice is not a cloistered virtue. It must suffer the scrutiny, albeit respectful, of ordinary men." That is to say, yeah, you could scrutinize, but you can't scandalize the court. You could say, I don't agree. You can't scandalize the court and suggest to the electorate that judges making policy for your government and you're opposed to it. You cannot say to them, judges have friends that are criminals and that is what is inspiring them to make the decisions. And as if that is not enough, I heard a policeman appearing before the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, some senior superintendent in a division, saying that when they charge people and they carry them to court, they just get bail. Well, officer, I don't know what they tell you in Balizé House, and certainly don't know what they told you in the police barracks. I do not know what they may have told you on the sixth floor upstairs police admin by Tanti Erla. Your work is to detect and prevent crime. If you detect a crime, you lay the charges, you carry them before the court. And it is the judicial officer's decision and their decision and discretion alone on matters of bail and sentencing. Because the law allows them that. And your disagreement will not change that law. Your disagreement or your displeasure in a judicial officer decision will not and cannot remove that right from a citizen. And I'm paying attention to that pattern, my friends. And that pattern, if not condemned by the wider population, is going to leave room for this galloping dictatorship to settle once and for all that we are a dictatorship. Because the judiciary, and I want to say this as I hasten to my conclusion, the judiciary, with all its faults, the judiciary with all its flaws, is the last piece of thread that is holding this country together. Next week, Wednesday, God spare life. And we have to underscore that. God spare life. I'll elaborate more on that. The judiciary is the last, with all their faults. I'm not saying they're perfect. In fact, I think they're far from perfect. With all their flaws, is the last piece of thread that is holding this society together. And if we allow this criminal terrorist government to roughshod the judiciary and bully the judiciary into making decisions according to their wishes and not according to people's rights, the Constitution and the law, then I'm afraid that if by our silence we encourage that and the judiciary is bullied and roughshodded, then Trinidad and Tobago will very well become a next Haiti because anarchy will reign. Have a good night. I love you. I think I'm off to my date now.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.